I knew you've been reviewed before.
Should I get closer?
10 years of
Yes.
How about,
It's just a couple who we missed.
Not good.
yeah.
can you move farther back?
Transfer policy. We want in schools.
This is me back at work.
See how we're involved in state schools. Keep moving.
I need something.
I stopped 3 years ago to make provincials.
If possible, I'd like to be able to start, you guys.
They're watching in the morning. 9 a.m. Friday or Saturday morning.
Sorry, did we get you in the first time?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And that's, you get that staying in school for quite a while. I think you should see people who aren't involved, move those people. Maybe if I get involved, I won't be moved around like
For those of you that had the opportunity to actually check your email in the last little while, the last 2 hours, the agenda's changed 4 times. That's just the excitement of getting ready for this meeting and the things that are issues. And I appreciate the fact that everyone was busy, so I facetiously said that it's nice that everybody sent all the alterations in the last 10 minutes, but I understand the nature of the beast at this time of year, so I'm happy that you were able to make it today. I'm going to just cover a few things that are mostly information sharing and then open the floor up to some discussions about some of the items that came across as issues that we ran into this year. For me, this year was a very unique one, obviously, because I wasn't here. It was nice that Ryan took over and was as effective as he was and did such a phenomenal job, so I'd like to publicly thank Ryan for the job. It makes me nervous that they may push me out now and he's going to take over, but we'll see what happens with that. On the agenda, I have the main thing that is going to happen next year has to do with Moodle. And for those of you that don't know, you need to come out from under your rock. We're moving to Moodle, and it's going to be a major issue next year. For those of you that have been around long enough, there are migrations within WebCT, and all we did was move from one version of WebCT to the next one was a nightmare. We did that like 3 times, and each one of those was a nightmare. Everything fell apart, things didn't work, and it was a monstrosity of a job. We're going to end up twice as bad this year because we're moving to a whole new platform, a whole new interface, a whole new infrastructure, and a whole new way of dealing with classes. So, now that I've said that, it's very exciting that we're moving because we're actually moving into this century when it comes to learning management systems. The new Moodle system, for those of you that don't know, is free, which means we're not paying any money for it. We are paying approximately $50,000 for our WebCT license. The $50,000, if we move to the next version of WebCT, would have been about $150,000. So when we were looking at the different learning management systems, Moodle is actually better than the new Blackboard and the new WebCT. The reason why it's better is when universities got together and decided they didn't want to pay the big fees for the learning management system, they put all of their resources into developing a new infrastructure and a new framework for a learning management system, and that was Moodle. And then all the universities got together and said, we're going to make it open source so you can see how it works. We're not going to charge anybody, and you can just put all of your resources into making it better. Since then, a whole pile of geeks out there in the world, in businesses and also other organizations, are using Moodle for their needs and their expectations. We have one programmer downtown who is our contribution to the open source Moodle system. He is trying to adapt it and trying to build it so it's good for us. That is going to take some time. At the moment, if you've been in Moodle, you probably looked at it and said, what is this? And it doesn't look right. There's no branding or anything like that on it. Yes.
Who is that person?
Jim Bennett.
Okay.
Excellent. Knows that everything that we do, we want to make it so it's better for the teachers and for the students, not for the programmer. And he agrees with that 100%, which is good because some programmers don't believe that. They believe if I can find an easy way to do this, it's off my plate, I don't have to worry about it. He's willing to delve into things, change it, or find an answer to the problems that we run across. Or he has up to this point, and we haven't made him mad enough yet to walk away. The actual transfer of your courses from WebCT to Moodle is going to be done electronically. Some of you have looked at your courses, some of you have had your stuff transferred over. It's not anywhere close to being what we want. We did that so that you can see your materials in there, your exams are not there. The theme is not correct. There's a whole pile of modules missing. The tracking systems and all those other sort of modules aren't attached to it yet. So it's in its roughest form. Those are for the people that want to get in there and muck around. Don't panic about the way it looks. Don't panic about what's in there or the fact that it's not functional and we can't open the school. The school will open with its first courses in probably September. So those people who are migrating this stuff in there, we will have a version of Moodle up and running that students can actually take the courses in. WebCT will remain functional for people until December, unless you're in a course that's going to end next year. And what I mean by that is if you're in an old WebCT course that is being written by yourself or someone else, that course will remain on WebCT until the end of the year, and at the end of the year we'll flick the switch and it'll be done.
Calendar year or school year?
School year.
School year, okay.
The reason why we're doing that is because there's a lot of work to migrate, and to migrate a course that's going to be dead at the end of the year doesn't make sense. Our license with WebCT ends at December. We're not going to pay for the next 4 months. If WebCT falls apart, we're all going to panic in those 4 months because I have no support and we can't get it back up and running. So if your course is on there, you have to cross your fingers for those 4 months or 5 months or whatever, however long it is from December until the end of the school year. If you would like to have a version of your WebCT course for the whole of next year to use in your classroom for whatever reason, for hybrids or whatever you want to use it for, I have no issues with that. Your Moodle course has to be up and running by the second semester. The reason why we want to do that is because we may have to bounce back to WebCT every so often and back to Moodle with the kids if we can't figure out how to make it work. And at the end of the year, if we say June is the time we need it done, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, some of you will wait until the end of June to actually say, okay, my course is now in Moodle, and you will have never tested it. So we need that half year to test out Moodle to make sure we get all the kinks worked out of it in the second semester. We will put kids in there, local kids from within our school division, and we'll decide if it's working. If it works, then we will put everybody in there, and then we'll just get rid of your WebCT course. And when I say get rid of it, it just means we'll shut it down. We won't put any kids in there. The problem is that you're going to be working in 2 different learning management systems next year. The sooner you can get out and get into the Moodle, if it works, the easier next year is going to be for you. Does that make sense? Okay. So, those of you that are gung-ho and want to work on it in the summer, the biggest issue that we're running into now is the quizzes. The quizzes will bring all your questions over, doesn't bring any of the form over. So you don't have a quiz, you don't have a title to the quiz, you don't have which question is first, which one's second, we're pulling 3 out of this, or we're pulling 4 out of this group of questions. None of that exists yet. We've looked at a program called Respondus, which will allow you to export from WebCT and import back into Moodle. It works halfway. Jim at the moment is trying to program that so we can make it work. If we can make it work, when we migrate your course over, all your content will be there, all your units will be there, and your quizzes will be there. We're not there yet. That may be 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road in the summer. When it is ready, we'll make sure everybody knows about that. It's really important next year that you follow along with the emails and you do what is asked of you, because the little steps are going to make your job much easier as we migrate. So simple things that may not make any sense to you about why we're doing it are actually probably making the migration easier and making things work better. So the first one that was sent out from Ryan talked about how you should try and clean up all your courses and get as much material out of those as you possibly can. Any pictures that are in abuse, any zip files you have in there, anything that is not of use in WebCT and is just sitting in there as a repository, get it out of there. Because the migration over to the new one just means you're taking the junk over there, and then it's going to be harder for you to find out where the problem is, or for us to find out where the problem is when it gets there. So your courses have to be as clean and as sterile as you can possibly make them before we bring them over. Okay, I'm out of the calamari.
So Darren, if we want to dabble this summer into this, what would you recommend that we do? Just
The course is coming over, then the theme is the biggest holdup at the moment. At the moment, the design that most universities have is 2 columns on the side and then the actual course materials in the middle. What we're going to do is we're going to go with an 80-20 split. We're going to take one of those columns off the side because it ends up real busy and real confusing for a new kid that gets in there or a kid who's not comfortable with computers. So we're going to push the column over to the side, and then all the modules and the calendar and all that other stuff that is just stuff that has nothing to do with the course will be on the right-hand side. The course content and the course material will be in the left-hand side and will be 80% of your screen. The moment that theme's made up, you can start looking at how your course looks. And that will be up in the next week or 2 weeks. Then you can go in there and you can look at, once your material's been put over to the new Moodle, you can look at your pages and say, okay, I shouldn't have the image there, I should move the image down here, and you can actually start designing that part of your course. So that's the first thing that you should be looking at, is just how your pages look. Because we know that works. We can take the stuff over, we can take the images over, and they will work. Some of you have dead images in your course. And it's not your fault, it's because we have WebCT, the original course was made in this one, and then it was made in this one, and then it was moved to this one, and then it was moved to that one, and the images in this course actually link back to this course way back here. When we migrate this course over, which is the one you're using in the Moodle, it's going to come across with none of your images, none of the links that actually exist in this course. And we're discovering those as we go along, because your courses work just fine now. We're not going to know that until we bring it across. And I'm not going through each one of your courses page by page to make sure your links are there. You guys know your course better than I do, or better than Jim does, so you need to go in there and look at your course and making sure this is where it's all laid out and this is the way it looks. Page by page to make sure that all your images are there and it makes sense.
When are they going to be released? Because I went into Moodle, but I could only be a guest in there. And I couldn't really do much.
Some people have told me that they wanted their classes migrated over, and those of you who have, you should be able to see them, and like Darren and everybody's probably experienced, it doesn't look quite right yet. And if you are looking for something to do in the next couple of weeks until we kind of streamline this process, another thing we do is just watch some YouTube videos. Go to the One Stop Cyber School staff room. I threw together just a quick little web page with about 8 or 9 little videos on it that I found on the web that just kind of show you what the interface looks like and how you can navigate around, because that's the first thing. Before you can really start changing some things around, you have to know where the buttons are. And everybody's on the same learning curve here, myself included. We don't really know how Moodle works that well yet. And to start studying it a little bit and mucking around, because if you screw something up now in your course, it's not that big of a deal, but you should try to see what happens, because there's going to be a time where you're going to be developing something in Moodle and you don't know what happened. The only way you learn how to do this stuff is by going in there and kicking around. So if you wanted something to do for the next 2 or 3 weeks, watch some videos. In WebCT, I found myself having to make a video for every little thing that came up, and that was fine because there wasn't really any videos on YouTube or on Google that would explain what we needed it to. Moodle is the exact opposite. I'll be surprised if I have to make more than 5 or 10 this year, because there's hundreds, thousands of help pages and Moodle videos out there already. So if there is a question, feel free to ask, but you can do a little bit of research too. If you just type it in Google, how do I create a test in Moodle? You'll have videos, you'll have tutorials, and that's the stuff that I've kind of slowly been bringing into, I forget the name of it, but there's a file in the One Stop Cyber School staff room that's just gives you some access to about, like I said, 7 or 8 just really basic videos to get you started.
So will our username and password be our way into this? So if I type my current website username and password, will there be something there? Because I've gone in and I just went teacher guest.
Yeah, did you email me and tell me that you wanted your classes?
No, I did not.
That's why there's nothing there.
Okay, but I haven't gone in and typed in my username and password.
You have to do that before we can migrate your classes over. You have to log in first, and then the system, and I don't know why.
Okay.
I'll clarify this one. What our system is trying to do is, it's called the one login for everything.
Right.
And so you're actually in the system. Moodle exists in the system. Until you log in, it doesn't recognize the fact that you want Moodle. So you have to actually log in first, and then it recognizes the fact, okay, he is a teacher in cyber school, he's a teacher.
So when I type in my username and password, it will know who I am.
Yes.
Gotcha. But my
Because
course won't be.
it's a
there.
system
Okay,
login.
okay.
My WebCT username and password are different than,
Can't be.
yeah, so,
It can't be anymore. It has to be the system email, the system username and password.
yeah.
Yes. And that's because, and this doesn't work, just so you know. The one login all across our system doesn't work yet, because Moodle actually wants cookies, SharePoint doesn't want cookies, and if there's some, they start talking geek that went right over my head, and I didn't understand it at all. But it doesn't work, but their goal is that we have one username and password within our system that will get us into every single system that we use. Pinnacle, SharePoint, and Moodle. Okay, those are the three main ones that we're gonna use.
Pinnacle uses a different username. Like, for example, I go Delder, but it's ELDE.
Yeah, they work, well, that's what they're trying to do. And so for us, they said everybody has to have, and that's why I cut MJ off so quickly there, is you cannot use a different email, different username and password, because they want everybody to use the same one within
I
our system.
understand that right now.
And it's one of those things where they said this one, because we're starting it off, if we start off and everybody uses the same one, then we know that one's gonna work, and it actually doesn't. We're gonna run into a whole pile of you who are gonna put it in and it's not gonna work. That's not our issue, that's the geek side of things, let them worry about that kind of thing. The reason why we went to Moodle, some of the exciting things is, you don't need to know HTML to use this Moodle. It actually works inside Word. So there's an actual plugin that you can put into your Word, and you download if this is your page that you want the students to read, you actually download that into Word, change it in Word, and then upload it. And it goes in just slickety-boo, and that actually works. So we know that that will work next year. You can actually ding the students when they're online, which means if you see a student is online, you can see who's online, you can actually ding them and say, I want to talk to you, which is huge compared to what we've been putting up with now, where you know you can't ever get a hold of this kid and he's on every single day, and you know he's on from 6 to 9, you know he's there because you checked the tracking and you can't get a hold of him. You can inside Moodle.
Can they?
Ding you? Yep.
Can you hide yourself?
Of course, yep.
Like
Don't like students or what?
students, but not at 9 at night.
No, you can't hide, like all those are settings, and that's the other problem, is that Moodle, remember, was built by a whole pile of people out there for everything you can possibly think of. It was used for businesses, for high school, for university, so we have to find all the switches. So until we find all those switches and how to set it up so it works for us, there's gonna be times where at the very beginning, he may get dinged at 9 o'clock at night because we didn't flick the switch. Well, that's just part of kicking in a new system and kicking a new one so it works. In the end, it's gonna be much better. Parents will be part of it. Parents will be able to see all sorts of stuff in there. Our tracking system will be part of it. Jim's building, all the stuff that we have in FileMaker will be migrated into Moodle. Everything will be built right in there. If we need to put stuff into Pinnacle, because that's what the system decides they want to do with it, we will do that electronically without us having to go into it. We will work in one system and one system only, and that's Moodle. At first we may not, but that's the goal from the administration's point of view. Our goal is that you will go into Moodle, you'll put your marks into Moodle. If they want to put it into a report card system, which is Pinnacle, all the power to them, but that shouldn't have anything to do with us. That's their side of it, because from the business point of view, they need it in there to send it down to Regina. That shouldn't affect your job. So for one programmer to spend a month fixing that means that I have 40 teachers who don't have to do it every day for the next 10 years. Okay, so we're going to try and fix things that way. And that's the way we're talking about it. If it isn't easier for us, then it's not a good program. Everything should make our job easier. It should make our ability to track and find things with the students. The other one that I'll talk to later on about plagiarism, there's an actual built-in plagiarism module inside Moodle. Moodle doesn't get rid of anything. In WebCT, remember, if you click the X and the check mark or whatever it is, or star, when you X that information is gone out of WebCT. In Moodle, it saves everything. Which means if you have an essay, it will run a check against every essay that was ever done in English in all the different grades and in the whole data bank. And so there's a plagiarism system that's built into Moodle because university people are paranoid. So it'll be in there, okay? The calendar that has been built has been specially designed by us, and that's the new one that you're using, and it has had glitches, but that was written by us, and it's taking time to get that one up to speed. It will be ready to go, hopefully, and we'll get better and better as we use it. It will be part of your course and will work right within your course. Part of that is then being able to send out the weekly information to your students. Or, listen, you're falling 2 days behind now. Your assignment was due 2 days ago. That will be an automatic system that is built into the Moodle system. So it's going to be a lot of management stuff that you don't have to deal with anymore. You'll get flags when kids don't have their quizzes done on time. You'll get all sorts of warnings and all sorts of emails sent to you or alerts built right into the system. And we need some help on what we need in order to get our job easier, because that's what Moodle should do for us. WebCT was very old, was a very hard set frame, and we couldn't alter it. This one we can alter. So if you have a suggestion, send it to me. I won't tell you you're an idiot more than once, but we will try to do things as best we can to make your life easier. Okay, so keep that in mind.
So is that going to alter how we use CyberTracker?
CyberTracker will go away. Everything in CyberTracker is being migrated into Moodle bit by bit. And so some of it's already in there, some of it will come in time. But one of the discussions we have is that FileMaker, which is the CyberTracker, will not go away until we have something that works as well or better inside Moodle. So this migration of 3 different systems, the Pinnacle, the Moodle, and the SharePoint, we don't migrate to those until we have something that will replace our blog system, will replace the wikis, will replace the FileMaker, will replace all of that kind of stuff. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions, other questions about the Moodle migration?
Migrate just part of your class, or just the whole thing? Like if I just want my data and questions moved over for whatever reason?
We probably can, but it's probably easier to migrate the whole thing over than just delete it. Just what we're trying to do is migrate exactly what we have now, and that's the question is we'd like to get all the WebCT courses that we have over to the other one, because believe it or not, we have, how many courses?
Already?
No, in WebCT.
About 44.
But no, that's the high school ones, then we have all the
Oh.
cyber planets, like there's 300 or something courses in there that we have to migrate across. You guys are 44 of them, so there's another 260 that have to get over that somebody else has to do, and I don't know who that is.
Okay, so just to clarify, the migration, are you going to be setting up, so like my English course, it'll come over, is someone going to be setting up, or are you moving all the information and then I'm responsible for putting it into the order of the units and all of that?
The units should come, we've already got that working. The units and everything will come across, all your lessons will be in the right path, everything will be there, the only thing that doesn't work is the quizzes.
So is that something we're supposed to fix, or are you guys going to?
At the moment, we're trying to find a solution to it so
Okay.
you don't have to.
So
Three weeks ago, that was gonna be your job.
Right.
And we decided that no, we can find a method around it, and Lisa sat there and worked really hard and tested out some different things and has it halfway working.
So if we just give it enough time, our course will be up? Is that like,
No.
or do you want us in there moving stuff around?
Well, here's what's gonna happen. In the summer, because I'll be working all summer long, I will be around and I will set up times where you can come into the cyber school and you can sit down as a group of 4 or 5 of us and we can go through a whole pile of stuff all together. You know how like we did when we first started the
Yeah,
cyber school?
yeah.
It's gonna be that type of scenario where I will be available or Ryan will be available, and if it isn't during the summer, it'll be at the beginning of next year where, listen, our quizzes aren't working, let's have a session, and we'll have 3 sessions on 3 different days, one in the morning for the people that committee, one in the afternoon, and one after school, and then we'll get everybody together and you can come in and work together. This is something that you should work together with somebody else. Don't try and do all this stuff by yourself. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Get together as a group of people. If there's nobody in your school, then come bug us. And we'll sit down and we will try to work together and try to achieve the best thing we possibly can. As much as we can do that you don't have to do, we'll try to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if what you wanted us to do, like if we go in and start messing around and it's something you didn't want, because you guys were setting it up.
We'd just delete it and start over again.
I have an idea. The way I think it's probably going to happen is you guys can go in, you can change stuff, play around, try to make exams, try to move content around if you want. At some point, when we feel like the migration is as good as we can get it to be, we'll probably just re-migrate stuff over unless you say, oh, you know what? I have my course in Moodle set up. I did all the legwork myself. I like it. Don't migrate my class over there.
Because if you migrate it again, it just overwrites
Totally.
what you've done. Okay,
But it can be a totally separate course.
Oh,
So we have this one and we have the old one. The same way we have in WebCT when we make a hybrid. So you have the one that you were goofing around with. Here's the new one. Take the good stuff out of the one you're goofing around with and put it into the new migration. So we can do that kind of stuff. So we won't overwrite something that you have that, listen, I want to keep that one. Yeah.
Also, one of the, oh, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Do you want us, like when we're developing, do you want us to talk about the OCT for now? Or just
If you can get into Moodle, get into Moodle. The sooner
do
you
we
get
zip the whole course and
in WebCT.
into?
If it's in WebCT now, is it in WebCT? Okay, then you just upload it. And there's ways to upload it if you're talking about the zipping and the group upload. That's possible. Google has that.
So new students for next year. Current students we have, we'll try and finish them off from WebCT. Are new students going into our WebCT?
If your course is ready, come September.
Okay, gotcha. So I'll tell you, I'll say, okay, come October, I'm ready. Every new student goes Moodle.
Yes.
And we'll finish. So if the kid starts in WebCT, they finish?
Yes.
Okay.
Second semester, everybody will go into Moodle. Now, I'm saying that, now if everything blows up and the
Right, okay,
servers
okay.
fall apart
Got it,
no matter what,
got it.
then it's not gonna happen. But our goal is that everybody in the second semester will have their kids going into Moodle.
Okay.
And we'll just get the ones that are finishing up in WebCT to finish, and then your course is done, your course is done, and so on. Yes.
I just want to mention, because I think when you open your course and you're gonna, for lack of a better term, not like it, what happens is, like, they're not, like in
I don't like it right now. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
that's
Inside WebCT.
in WebCT, for example, you know how you have icons, say for Unit 1 or
Yes,
whatever,
yes.
and then you click on it and you get a nice list of
Yeah.
it's not like that.
It's not like a blog.
Yeah, everything will be listed on the front page, and there'll be a lot of things listed there that aren't even anything.
Yeah.
So, like, just heads up, because you're not gonna like it if you go into it today, like you asked.
But the plan is
But
that.
if you will like it,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
The
Just
theme
beware.
will fix that.
Yeah,
yeah,
It's
it'll
gonna
get
change, it's not
better.
just gonna be the rules.
Yeah, it is, right? Because that's what it is. You have 842 things on one page, and it's
Right.
all listed, and it's not pretty to look at
yeah,
right now.
no,
It will
I
get better.
just wanted to sort of know what you
Yes.
want us to do.
I'm gonna be totally honest with you, I'm a little afeared of what's gonna happen with my course, because it is image-based, and I got a database that's huge, question database, and with images linked, and if I look at the amount of work that goes into retagging those, I'm sorry, but I think we need more time.
We're trying.
We agree 100%. Your course, his course, and a few other ones that we've identified are monsters. And are the reason why we need to make this, that was the biggest reason why we said we can't just have you guys redoing the quizzes. Your whole
I
course is
appreciate
not
Brian,
quizzes.
I said, yeah, migrate me over, so you're not gonna wait on you to go working on some things, I appreciate that. But when I hear, because our whole course, Kev's too,
You know,
I mean, math is image-based, a lot of it is.
you know, and we're.
I have a movie.
Who made that movie?
No, Dave.
Made in year
we totally
one.
know where we're going. And we know how much work it is, that's why we're trying to do everything we can to make it as good as we can, as soon as we can. So
Probably one of the last courses.
None of it's gonna be easy, and we're gonna have issues with Ken's movie and your, we're gonna have issues with all of this kind of stuff. So all you need to do is recognize the fact that it's not gonna work. Okay, we have to build it, and we will make it as great as the WebCT is now. But we'll make it much better than what WebCT is now, because we now have a programmer who's actually gonna work with us hand in hand to give us the things we need to be successful on online education. That's huge compared to what we've been dealing with in the past.
the next year is gonna be brutal. It's gonna be brutal for everyone. But in 2 years, I don't think there's anybody in cyber school who's gonna look back and go, we shouldn't have made this move.
Well, Dave,
There's-
he may be still
Dave
being
might
like.
be. Outside of Dave though.
Ken will be working second.
Hangover 2.
Just a quick question about the saving of $50,000, if that's a fair phrase, and what, obviously I'm not asking anything you haven't thought about, but is there any funds that will be appropriated to helping with this, or is the,
Yeah, we have a programmer.
and that's what they're saying? Okay.
Yeah, he's.
And, or do we have access to Jim?
No,
That's the second question. And third question, is the access not include email as well then? Like, do we have to daisy chain and say, Ryan, I
Yes.
need help with, and then Ryan
No.
goes to Jim?
Because.
And that's fair enough, I just wanna
Yeah.
know what the protocol's gonna be, because
Yeah,
that's
because
gonna be a
honestly,
huge thing for all
I
of us.
sent him maybe 25% of the emails that come to me from the staff.
Fair enough, yeah.
I only send on maybe 25 to him that I know that he has to deal with.
But if you're getting the same set of emails, I completely get administratively why you would send that once and not all of us.
and the other thing that we're trying to do is trying to prioritize what's the most important thing so that we can actually offer the
Yeah.
courses. And there are going to, and that doesn't mean you don't send us the email. By all means, send us the email, it will go on the list, and we'll try to prioritize things to make sure we get your courses, because the actual cyber school is you guys. So 44 of the courses are more important than the other 260 that we have on the server. The other 260 aren't as important as your 44. So everything's going to be prioritized on that. And we had to actually readjust what Jim was doing based on that concept. And so he got sidetracked on something else, and he thought, oh, this would be really cool, and he was off working on something else. We had to put him back on task and said, no, the teachers' quizzes are the most important thing, and then he went back to concentrating on that. So we are going to try and prioritize what he's doing in order to make your job as easy as we possibly can. So you guys are happy, we're happy. So
With that, I know that when I developed 7 years ago, having access to, Tony and Norm and you and that think tank upstairs, and I know the think tank upstairs has been a bit of an issue, and I think maybe that model we have, because there are a lot of people in here who haven't developed ever, and if we don't have that collective group, I don't think email is going to work between us. And Ken and I haven't seen each other in the hallways more than 3 times, probably for a good reason. But it really helped. I remember when Jeff and I and Jason would come over, and I had no idea how to program in HTML. The week you helped me, and I got the 15 tags I really needed.
Well, and those are going to be the sessions. Like we've got the team of people at the cyber school. Some of them are changing, but we'll have the basic core people that are there, and we're going to end up running sessions as often as we can for you guys to come over. And so this is going to be a step-by-step migration, and we're going to make things better. And when we make those steps, there'll always be the opportunity for you to come by and have it done with us and sit down and work together on it. And so some of the things, like what the email that he was sent out, those ones where it's like simply go into your course, take your images out and clean it up and do all that other stuff, obviously that we're not going to get together. But if we said you need to put in all your images and this is the way you need to code it and it's a little bit more complex, then we'll have meetings and we'll put it together.
I guess it's even a little bit more than that. Like some of the little things that a person picks up and takes for granted that can move a person a week or 2 ahead, just that, it's like that one little button you push that you think, like that doesn't happen unless there's some place where you can kind of.
Well, you and I both know that the pod idea is history.
I know.
And it's not going to change. In fact, they are bulldozing the actual cyber school next year, so we don't even have a cyber school next year. So that was actually mentioned to me today that we may have our office working from home. So.
How big is your head? In the future.
That may be it. The cyber school that actually exists, the physical plant of it, may be no more. This may be the cyber school.
Clint, come over, I know where Ryan lives.
What's that?
I know where Ryan lives, come over.
My wireless is really strong.
If you got Wi-Fi by your pool, that's where cyber school is.
My pool's 88.
But literally, like I'm not being facetious, that's the actual statement now. I do not know where the cyber school is going to exist. I've been told we are going to be, the wood structure that we have now is a fire hazard, they're going to bulldoze it next year. That's what I found out yesterday, that it is going to be gone. So do we know where it's going? No. They was talking about putting us in Ken's room because there's no windows and they're going to give us a half classroom. Now, can we hold a meeting in a half classroom with 5 people on phones all the time? No. So that's what we're working with at the moment. So I understand the question. If I had my way, I'd put us all together in a room in the Bahamas someplace and we would create a cyber school. That to me makes sense, but we're not going to do that, obviously. So we have to work within the framework that we've got. So I understand and I will bring it forward, and there is that necessity for us to have a meeting room for sure.
I think 3 days with these people, and we would solve 90% of what ELMS is handling.
I can see
honestly,
a lot of it.
I truly believe that.
You're right. I can see what's going to unfold is like at your own school, if you can hook up with a few people going, I can't figure out this quiz maker or this quiz designer. You guys figure it out. And then it just kind of permeates through the cyber school, because if you guys have that question, you can bet that 20 other people are going to have the exact same question. And to have those think tanks, it's totally a good thing. It's just going to be a matter of logistics. I can see it happening at the grassroots level more than at the office level. So if you guys stumble across something that go, holy cow, this is really good, people should know about this, you're going to have to share it. Don't wait for it to come from somebody else. If you have something like that, hey, I figured out how to do this, there's a quick workaround for this issue that everybody's been having, blah, 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 blah. You're going to be seeing a lot of that next year. One stop.
We'll build it, yeah.
It's already there. You can already ask questions. I think you already asked some questions in there.
Okay, let's go one step farther than that. That was a perfect segue into the next thing on the, well, I'm actually going to skip the inquiry learning bit and go to the year-round school. the plan that I've heard up to this point for our cyber school is we want to go international. If we go international, it's impossible for us to run an international school, a cyber school, and have a summer off. It doesn't work because their summer is totally different than any other summer. So when you're over in Australia, they're on holidays different times than we are, so it doesn't function. So a year-round school will have to be the reality if we plan on doing that. If the board decides that they can make money off of this and that's where they want to go, then that is our step into being able to pull people together. And because the proposal for the year-round is that we split you guys up into departments and teams. There's a couple of different models that are out there based on the research. One of them is that you find a partner that you're going to work with and you cover the year based on each of you or two of you or three of you as a little team get together and decide we have to cover 12 months. You have to get the thoughts of summer out of your head. Summer doesn't exist in the cyber school if we go year round. What you will be given is 7 weeks of holidays. When you take those holidays are totally up to you. And you will then have to decide when you want those holidays and how you're going to cover them based in your little cohort of people that you have working together. So if these three people are working together, they have to cover 2 courses or 2.5 courses, and they will be given the time to go on. I calculated how much that's going to cost the school division, and it's 1.5 extra teachers that we have to hire. That means you have to give up some of the ownership for your course, which means you have to be able to allow other people to come into your course and teach aspects of your course while you're on holidays. So it's a whole different mindset. You can have a team of math teachers, 4 math teachers that are teaching 3 classes, and their names are not attached to anything. One person may be in charge of marking, one person may be in charge of helping students and looking for issues, the other one might be in charge of answering emails. And so we changed the actual job of the teacher from being a facilitator and take them totally off of the stage for that one single course. Okay, so that's the plan in the future. Whether or not this actually happens or not, we have no idea. We don't even know where we're going to exist, so that's the plan. Yes?
Your plan or the board's plan?
The board has told me they want to go to international.
Are
And
they gonna then-
I've told them that it has to be a year-round school.
Okay. Are they going to coordinate us with our home schools as well, or?
No,
Would we be full-time cyber then?
no.
So,
Yeah, exactly. So, we don't know. I don't
I'm
know.
a roofer for
we have no idea how it's going to look. But the actual, and this is something that I've sort of trained myself in the last 8 months to do, is the big picture is this. They want an international school. In order to achieve that, we need 2 things. We need better bandwidth, and we need to have a year-round school. Those are the 2 things we need to achieve. How we're going to get there? I don't know. I don't have a sniff. I just threw out 2 ideas that were rambling around in my head, and the ones that I have found as I looked at other cyber schools. But does a full-time cyber teacher work? Yes. Does an international cyber teacher work? Yes. I had an agent approach me one time, and I've told people this. I had an agent approach me, and he wanted to give me 2,000 Asian students in a semester. Next semester, I'll give you 2,000 new students for your cyber school. And the semester after, I'll give you 5,000. And I said, I don't have the teachers. And he said, I do. You just have to have a master teacher who will train them on how to mark those essays and do that kind of work. Now, that's another model that's out there. This agent was willing to go that day. He would have signed a contract with us, and we were ready to go. It would have increased by 7,000 students in a day. So the model is out there, and we can do that, and the division's looking at it from that point of view. Does it come with some headaches? Yes. Will it happen next year? No way. We're not even going to get Moodle to work next year. So, is it something we have a plan for? Yes.
Around Saskatchewan, the requirement that you have to be a resident in the province to get the credit?
Well, the first model that they're looking at is courses that are not credit courses. English as a second language, those type of things. And there's a demand for programming in English, which is another demand. So there's a whole pile of courses that can be done without having Saskatchewan on site. And so that's the first model they're looking at. The second model is they are going to campaign, because SAS Learning does have one school in Hong Kong which is using the Saskatchewan curriculum off-site. And they were given an exception to do that, and so then the question is being asked, can we do the same thing? Whether or not they allow us to, I don't know. I asked that 4 years ago and I haven't got an answer yet. It's in committee.
It's pretty easy to actually open up the school now. It's, you don't know your basement.
Can you get the memo?
It's getting
I guess the
better.
question is,
No,
who are the students that are going to be needing Saskatchewan courses? Is there data out there? Like,
Saskatchewan, actually, the one in Hong Kong is talking about using the Alberta curriculum because Saskatchewan curriculum isn't well respected. And so the ones that are well respected is the baccalaureate, the Ontario, and the BC are the three that they're really looking for. Alberta is right behind BC when it comes to the actual interest sake out there in the world. And the reason they want it is because they want to come to university here. If you have ever tried to go to another university in another province, even within Canada, it's really difficult. If you try to go down to the States, if you're coming from Saskatchewan, they sometimes ask you to upgrade. Because the provinces are still fighting over our curriculum is better than your curriculum, and because you come from Saskatchewan, you won't be treated the same as someone who came from BC because you want to go to University of British Columbia. And so there's all that fighting that's going on. We've decided to try to eliminate some of that and go international, and so we don't even have to talk to the public school board or WACA, who's concerned about us stealing their students. So that's the thought process that comes from that. Okay? Questions on that? That's great. You don't have any questions on that? Laptops for teachers. This has been a headache for me because I think they've messed it up, and this is a statement that I've told them, so I have no issues telling you guys. Giving us a laptop and then locking it down so tight that it's not of any use in the cyber school doesn't make sense. You people are supposed to be the leaders in the division, and what I was told at that time is that, yeah, but your teachers are the worst ones for having the inappropriate stuff on their laptops. So I talked to them about the fact that if that is happening, then I need a list of the the teachers in my school that are inappropriately using their laptops, and then I'll talk to them individually. To hit everybody with a big lock and locking the laptop down so tight doesn't make sense when there may be 2 or 3 of you that are not using them properly. If you're those people, don't do it again. I don't know what it means by using it inappropriate, whether that's porn sites, whether or not that is sites that you're downloading things that are counterproductive to what we're doing in our division, or whether you had viruses on your computer or what. I have no idea what it meant. They just said it's being used inappropriate, which is a big, all-encompassing statement. Boat anchors. People have given laptops back within our division because they're of no use, and the actual discussion that we're at now is I've talked to the technology department, and we are going to sit down and have a discussion where both of us are happy. I would like it to work just like it does at McDonald's, where you can walk in with any laptop and be able to use the internet and use it on any site you want to do whatever you wish, and they would like it to be a little tighter than that. And so there has to be a happy medium between that, and so for the next couple of months we're going to work on trying to get the laptops for at least this group, because you guys are the leaders, but we can't do that if you guys are going to inappropriate sites. And I have no idea who's doing it or anything like that, so I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, Ken. I'm kidding. That was a joke. It's not Ken.
But the ability to be able to load your printer at home, that's ridiculous. I can't print anything off the laptop.
Right.
I have to email my stuff to my kids so that they can print something. I mean,
all that stuff was expressed, and the bit that we, like for us, the plugin, for instance, that you need for Word inside Moodle, we're going to have to call 888, whatever that number is. All of us are going to have to call that in order to get it updated. That does not make sense, and it will not be able, for us in the summer, for all of us to bring in our laptops that add a single little plugin that takes 30 seconds to plug in. That doesn't make sense to me. It's counterproductive to what we're trying to achieve. That's been expressed. They've heard it. We will now let you know in the future what's going to happen with that. I'll let you know.
I know this has come up many times, is it still the expectation that we work from home?
No expectation at all. There has been no statement made one way or the other, and that's why it's really easy for them to say, well, we didn't say that. We didn't say you have to work from home.
But the flexibility issue over holidays and things like that, the expectation would be that we have to be flexible from home.
Not in their minds. If you want to work from school the whole time, that's fine. That's what I'm saying, is there's no expectations. They haven't put those demands on you in any way. And so it's really hard for us to say, you know, we'd like to, and Ken was talking to me this morning about that, if I have to travel back and forth from home, can I claim mileage? And they're saying, no, we're not telling you to go back and forth. And so those are all discussions, and we'll talk about that issue in a second, but that when you start talking about those things, they just say, well, no, we're not expecting you to do that. They expect you to do a good job, and it may require that you do that, but they're not saying that. And so if they don't say it, then they don't have to back it up with any funding or anything like that. Yes?
My desktop's about ready to blow up. I'm assuming we're not going to get anything new on.
Right.
Okay. Programming, I mean the Adobe product on the laptop is useless because it takes up so much space and the laptop can run it.
It's the same idea.
I'm better off just buying my own equipment and
It's all part of the discussion. No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that, and I think that's part of my job. And I'm sorry that this year was as bad as it was with the lockdowns and all that other stuff that happened. I think that was made more. It's not going to work for us. So I have to be careful what I say. But it's not going to work the way it is designed at the moment. So I will do my best to try and change that. And in fact, we were told that I sounded a lot like the Muppets, the two old guys in the
Waldorf.
Whatever those guys are.
Now, one of the things that has been my philosophy in the cyber school, that as a administrator for the cyber school, I do one thing and one thing only, and that is to make you better online teachers. The division now, because they're taking a look at the cyber school and they want to go international and all that stuff, want to make you better teachers and use the cyber school as one of the vehicles in order to make that happen. So in the past, the only thing I've ever talked to you about is not your content and the way you delivered your content. It was more the way it works best in an online environment. You were hired because you're content experts and you're the best in that subject area, or that you're the best I could get in that subject area. Okay?
Why did you look at me when you said that?
It wasn't aimed at anyone in particular, again. The fact of the matter is that they want to talk about inquiry learning, and they want to talk about the assessment of your courses. The downtown consultants will be part of that discussion in your courses. So now we're going to start to assess your courses and treat you just like you would a face-to-face classroom, and talk about the way you're assessing your kids and the way you're presenting your material. All the new curriculums have certain demands on them. The math, the sciences, the Englishes, the new curriculums are all designed around inquiry learning. It's a perfect fit for online education. They would like to see that in our courses. If we design courses and there's still the old model of content-based, here's a content, here's a quiz, here's a content, here's a quiz, we're going to be in trouble. In the past I said, you're the content expert, you can do that. I'm now taking that back. We are, as a division, going to be looking at your courses and making the best courses we possibly can based on the new philosophy of education. Math makes sense, all those other things will be part of your courses. How that's going to look and who's going to come in and look at your course will be something we'll design next year. And the valuation of your course, like what I did this year where you just filled out a little form and all that stuff, will not be that way, because I'm not concerned so much. You're going to get that through Moodle on the best way to deliver your course and all that other stuff using the technology. What we're going to talk about is the actual educational quality of your course, the philosophy of that and the theory of that. So that'll be exciting for some of us.
So this is going to happen the same year with migrate.
Of course. The reason why it's going to happen is because this is a perfect year, because you're looking at your course to be able to change the way you're doing things. That's the way they look at it. And we will only do as much as we can, but that's the same thing that happens. It's not meant to be a threatening situation for anybody. It's just we're trying to make you better teachers, and so that's the way we're going to approach it. I don't understand all the answers, and Clint and I and Ryan had a big discussion about this yesterday. Inquiry learning is a very difficult thing to achieve in some courses, and because of the nature of that course. And so then how do you make that happen? And so I've been looking at all the research out there, and everybody else is running across the same thing. And so that I've been looking at the research that's out there. I will bring to you what I can find, and hopefully together we'll find a way to make our courses fulfill what they would like us to do within our courses. Okay? Pinnacle Gradebook. It's been a decision that's been made at the board office that that is going to be the way we hand out report cards and the way we ship marks and you do your daily marks. We do not want to use two systems. Moodle has their own built into it. We do not want to have to put our marks into Moodle so the kids can see it and then migrate those out into Pinnacle so that we have a grade at the end that we can then send out a report card. That has been stated to the tech department. I haven't told the guys who actually make the decision. So the tech department is now trying to find a way around it. My philosophy and my way of looking at things is, if we can keep everything in Moodle, it's going to be better for the teachers. The fact that it has to go into Pinnacle is just a transfer of data. That should have nothing to do with you guys. Does that make sense? So then what should end up happening is, if they, because they want the demographics of the students in the cyber school and they want to know how many are passing, failing, and all that other stuff, it has to go in MAT, it has to go in Pinnacle, it has to do all that kind of stuff. That's technology, and it should happen without you guys being aware of it. So if they want to take all the information out of Moodle and take it over there, then fine. Let's get Jim to write a program that does that for us. You will be using Pinnacle in your classrooms next year. It's going to be the one system that they're going to use. So all the other ones are going to go away. So expect that to happen. So you'll know how to use that system. But I'm hoping we don't have to use that for the cyber school. Or if they do, then they better get rid of the Moodle one and actually integrate Pinnacle in there, so that's the one we use for the kids. Pinnacle, SharePoint, and Moodle are the 3 programs that we're going to use in our system. We just signed a contract with Microsoft that we are a Microsoft Innovative School Division and schools. That does not mean we can't use other products. That doesn't mean all the Macintosh people are going to start burning down houses and stuff like that. That's not what it means. What it means is that Microsoft is going to help us change our schools into innovative schools and use technology and how to integrate technology into the way we're teaching. Great program. A great opportunity for everybody here. For those of you that don't know, Kelly, Ryan, and a whole pile of other people have been traveling around the world on Microsoft's dollar. Microsoft is going to ask exactly the same thing next year. If you get the opportunity, put your course in there, a technology course that you've used technology in some way in your face-to-face classroom and your cyber school course, write it up the way Microsoft wants you to write it up. You'll go to, I don't know, where is it next year? Wherever. Like there was a, where'd you end up going?
Malaysia, Hong Kong.
Okay, and so Kelly, I think, just went to South Africa, so they will pay that whole thing, and it's all paid for. It just means you have to fill out some paperwork. I would like to see the cyber school lead that. I'd like to see this whole group in the next Innovative Teachers Conference around the world, because they will pay for it, they will take you there. So that's part of us signing the contract with them. We're not getting into bed with them or anything like that, so we do get to change things. Transfer policy.
Sorry, can you back up? What is SharePoint?
SharePoint is when you log on to OneStop. Have you been on OneStop yet? SharePoint is an overall umbrella program that's made by Microsoft that allows you to have your school web pages, your parents' pages where they can log on and see everything. SharePoint is a program that was designed by Microsoft that took an operating system and put it, it's a web-based operating system that you can put everything into, and you can build intranets, you can build wikis, and it has all these different tools in there. The reason why it's taken us 3 years to get anywhere with it is it's got 14 million little buttons. You need to flick this one and flick this one. So they're moving really cautiously so that they don't want to roll things out and then have people going in there and changing the pay scale of teachers or something like that. So there's an issue as to the way it's being rolled out, and it's been slow, but it will get faster in the next little while. All our web pages at the moment move on a program called Movable Type, and our communications officer is coming up with a theme for all the school web pages, and they will move into SharePoint. So when you actually log on, you'll see the front page for our school division, and all the schools will have their own web page attached to that. That's all part of SharePoint. It's basically a vehicle for making that happen. That make sense? Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the question. Transfer policy. This is a huge part of my job. I have to apologize to people because not everyone, or in fact most people, didn't get what they wanted in the cyber school this year. I understand why people want to get into the cyber school. I understand how much time people would want, and I've heard all the requests and all that other stuff. I am amazed at how little I knew about how transfers are made within our division. There are so many little factors that can squash someone being transferred or somebody being part of the school division. It's such a huge nightmare that it's amazing that it actually works, but it does. The problem is that a lot of the stuff that happens, you can't even explain how it happened because you don't know how it happened. You sort of have to take it under faith and trying to do the best thing for the division and the best thing for the cyber school. We've been very lucky. We still have a very powerful staff and very good staff, and that's exciting. One of the philosophies that's come down is that the superannuates, which applies to 2 people here, this will be the last year coming up that they will actually be allowed to teach in the cyber school. And that's a new transfer policy that has come up. Will it change if we go international and our numbers go right through the roof? Will we need other people? Yes, we may even go outside the division. At the moment, we've never hired anybody from outside the division. This innovative Microsoft teachers thing, I've met 45 or 100 of those all around the world that are very technologically literate and would do a very good job of teaching online. They already do it. Would they be open to teaching our division? Yes. Will they be the people that we have to tie into? Probably. But we want to look after people at home first, and then we'll tie in outside the division. But will we have people who are not teaching in our division teaching in the cyber school in the future? My projection is yes, because we will probably get so big that we have to. we can't fulfill all the requests now. Now we have a waiting list and a lineup and people wanting to get in and all that other stuff. We will eat that up really fast. Will the policy that you want to go over 50% in our division change? That's a policy that has been made in the face-to-face schools because they don't think a teacher is actually part of the school unless they're there at least 50% of the time. If they're only there 25% of the time, then they don't add a lot to the building of the school or the environment of the community of the school. So they would like people to be at least 50% face-to-face, 50% in the cyber school. Will that policy change? I hope so. Would it be easier to have all you guys full-time and we could go work in the Bahamas? Yeah, it would be perfect. Are we going to get that route? I'm not sure. I don't see us going that far, but I can see the 50% policy possibly changing. But all of these policies are out of my hands, and I hear your requests, and I hear it from all of you, and I know where you want to go with it. I just can't do it, some of it, so. Strike action. Cyber school is viewed as any other school. Every other school was open during the strike action. The cyber school was kept the same way. They opened the doors and we couldn't lock them. That was our original plan, was to not even allow the students to log in. We were told by our division that it is their property. They can keep it open if they want, and they opened it. Is that an issue for you guys? Yes. Is that an issue for the STF? Yes. Have I talked to the STF? Yes. Are they going to do anything about it? Not sure, because it's so gray. Do we want to go down that path?
What's the board's expectation if they keep the doors open to cyber school during strike action? Expectation of us?
They don't want you to go in there.
So I don't understand why it's a problem for them for locking the doors.
Because then the kids can't work.
Well, school is open, but the classrooms are closed and locked up and they can't get into those
But they can still work on their stuff.
at home.
Are we allowed during those days to lock exams and stuff?
The STS philosophy was that why don't you take it and lock out the students so that they can still get into the school and they just can't do any assignments or hand anything in. Can you do that? In WebCT, yeah, except for the fact you have 35 kids in 35 different spots. You have to find out where they're and try to stay ahead of that. And it would be more work than it is to just say a final mark and stuff. So I told the STF that, or ST or whoever I was talking to, said that they shouldn't obviously make that work because it shouldn't be more work for you because you just flick the switch. And I was told that just flick the switch, Darren, because you have to be a member of this federation and you have to be able to support what you think is best for your teacher, so flick the switch. I said, okay. So then I was between the two and I didn't know what to do. So I still don't know what to do. I still don't have an answer from either group. Well, I do from the board. The board says you're leaving it open. But do I have the ability to shut it off without the board being able to figure out how to turn it back on? Yeah, but I don't want to do that. Yeah.
So were our physical schools open?
Yes.
Who was manning them?
The EAs and the secretaries.
Wasn't there somebody like, yeah, the sign?
Migrated around, yeah, board office members. And so, do I have an answer? No. Are we going to end up striking? According to the people that I was talking to on our side, the Federation, they said they're not going to strike like that. They'll take away voluntary services and stuff like that, so we don't have to worry about it again. And I said, well, it's not so much worrying about it again. Shouldn't we plan for this? And so it happens again. I don't get a phone call 20 minutes before school's done and ask me to leave it on or turn it off. Like it. So they want to talk about that. The issue, and this is a slippery slope we have to be watching, we have to be careful of, if we picture ourselves or we portray ourselves as, or we're seen by the board as too much of us facilitators and not teachers, do we have to have actual accredited teachers or teachers with teaching licenses from Saskatchewan teaching our courses? And that's where the agent came in and said, I can supply you with 200 teachers and you guys be the master teacher. So you have one master teacher and a whole pile of people being your teacher's aides. And all the courses are designed that way, or all the learning management systems are designed that way because that's the way universities work. You have one guy who's your PhD and then you have a bunch of teaching assistants. Can we run a school like that within our division? Yes, in a second. Because only the credit would still come from the master teacher. Do we do that in our schools? Sometimes. Do we get our knuckles wrapped? Yes, from the Federation, but they can't really stop you from doing it. If the board wanted to do it, they can. So now, do we want to go down the slippery slope of saying we need to identify that whole, what is the role of an online teacher? I don't know what the role is. I don't want to go that route with the Federation. I don't want to go that route with our division, because then we have to start talking about When do we work, where do we work from, all those type of things, and we'll lose all our flexibility really fast. So, I don't have an answer, but I just like sharing stuff because it confuses me. Cyber school teacher?
I didn't put it
I have a feeling this has to do with exactly what I just stated.
You
What
had,
is-
you had 3 things underneath that.
Yeah. Under the cyber school teacher?
Yeah,
What was it?
the hybrids, the plagiarism.
Yeah, no, the cyber school teacher was a separate one, and I think that
Oh.
came from our discussion, Clint, about what is our actual, what is a cyber school teacher, what is our role, and how are we viewed within our division? And is it 35 in this discussion? As I traveled around and I talked to teachers and teachers who taught in online schools around the world, the number of 35 is high compared to what some of the other divisions are around the world and what they're doing. And some of them base it on subject area. And so the teacher's job, the cyber school teacher's job, what is their actual job? And what are they expected to do? And so in some of the places, there's some supervision that's done online as well. That it applies as, just like it would in your face-to-face schools, where you're expected to supervise aspects of their cyber school. And so the question of what a cyber school actually is, a cyber school teacher actually is, has come into the forefront. The STA, STF would love to get in there and sort of figure out what it is and actually get it down on paper so that they can quantify it. And then when it comes to strikes, they'll be able to do it. And our board wants to do the same thing. I don't know if we want to go down that road. So my question to you is, do we actually want to try and define what a cyber school teacher is? We're going to lose a lot of our flexibility if we do, but I think it does also give us some power to ask questions like the one that you asked today about, if I don't have a place to work within this division and I have to work from home, am I allowed to claim my computer with Revenue Canada, or am I allowed to claim the traveling back and forth? Am I allowed to claim the space in my home as my workspace?
They actually signed it for
The board,
me. Yeah.
precedence set.
So can I address my
Go for that one.
particular issue?
Yep, hit it.
And I was hoping someone from downtown would be here, but I'm hoping that this gets forwarded to them in some regard. And it's going to take me about a minute or two to phrase it. Some of you are very new, some of you have been around from the very beginning. But sort of the history of the cyber school arrangement and past practice is that there has been, I don't know if anyone will ever commit to it, but there's been this understanding that we're open all the time. We are open through Christmas and Easter. And someone could say, well, just don't log on. That's not practical. If we are educators dealing with students, we're not going to leave them 2 weeks without any guidelines. So the implied expectation is that we work through our Christmas and Easter holidays. And that's been past practice. We all do that. Now, the trade-off and the choice that a cyber school teacher makes is the following. That is balanced by a flexibility in your job. And that's always been a decision, whether you want, if you are willing to do that for flexibility, then this is a great place to be. If you're not, we've had many people leave cyber school because of the demands, because they weren't willing to make that decision. So for 11 years, our practice has been the idea that what cyber school provides, in spite of all of the things where it's very demanding, is that we have a flexible schedule. In the past, things that have gone on, we've lost the pod. So we have no workspace. We have no equipment other than what we can salvage ourselves. And so what has happened in the last while is that schools are to provide a workspace. I wasn't given one. I had to create one in the back of my room with salvaged equipment. Now, so we don't have a workplace and we don't have equipment. And I was told on many fronts that I should work at home. So I left the pod mentality and have been working at home with my cyber school. I work through the lunch hour at school and then I go home and finish. Okay, so that's been my practice. Now, that is that flexibility that I guess that comes with the job. So for the last couple of years, I've had two workplaces. I have had my classroom, and I have had home. Though I do some of my work at lunch in my classroom, I finish it at home. So I am in two places. Now, also in the past, my school has been very good to me. I've been blocked off, where I teach the mornings at Holy Cross, and then the afternoons. That's my flexible time for my cyber school. However, this coming year, I was informed that I'm teaching period 1, 2, and 5. Now, this decision obviously negates the flexibility and the trade-off that has been the past practice of our cyber school. I was told that I was employed by the board and could be placed anywhere within the schedule. And while this is true, it contradicts past practice, it contradicts the philosophy that we've had in cyber school. And it also contradicts the idea that I am in two buildings. Because I'm now, if I were in a physical building, for example, let's say I taught a class at St. Joe's, I would have been blocked off from my home school. I would have taught 1, 2, 3 at my home school, and then had a period 5, I'm sure, at St. Joe's. So I'm getting two messages, they're mixed, and none of them are congruent. The message to work at home has been contradicted and changed, and so I guess I have many questions. I didn't think that I would have been an option in moving around to fill a scheduling gap. I thought I would have been blocked off. I have been. I should be. That's what the history of cyber school and our sort of the flexibility that comes with it. So I guess what I'm worried about, had it been presented to me as perhaps a, we have trouble this year, this isn't going to work, we're hoping it's a one-shot deal, but we might have to do this. That might have been different, but I was told I was employed and I could be placed wherever they wanted to place me. And so I guess my concern is the fact that the decision makers and the messages that I am being told are two different messages, all from decision makers, and they're not on the same page. And I don't know if your situations then are the same, but I don't think the concept of the cyber school teacher and the flexibility that we're supposed to get in lieu of working through all those things that I've already mentioned should be at the discretion of any home school administrator who needs to fill a gap and moves you from that. And it was greatly concerning to me. Am I in two schools? Do I work at home? If I don't work at home, which 1, 2, 5 doesn't permit me, then am I provided workspace and technology to do my job in that particular building? If they're not getting me that, then do I go home and can I claim travel? There's a whole bunch of questions that no one's answering. No one is communicating to me anyway. I'm just told that I'm an employee and they can put me wherever they want. Well, and that is true. They can. They can put me 1, 2, 3, and I can go to St. Mary's for a period. They can do whatever they want. I understand that. But it contradicts every other message that we've had in cyber school from both our own cyber administration and the board administration and the beginnings of cyber school. And so, what are we? What are principals supposed to do? Not what they're allowed to do. They can do whatever they want. That was made abundantly clear to me. What should they be doing? Should this be a fickle thing where it's changed year to year depending on the schedule and who's in charge of the school? Or should there be some policy? Now I know, Darren, you said we've got to be careful about policy because, well, sometimes I think we need policy. And so I'm very bothered by this because, you know, I'm excited about Moodle and messing around in that, and I'm thinking, but all of those things that we do, the trade-off and the balance has always been that you get some flexibility to do it within your time, within your schedule. And that's been taken away. And no one seems, I shouldn't say no one, I'm sure people within this room understand, but decision makers outside of this room don't seem to take into account the history of what we've done, the message of cyber school in its origins, and it's always been that, and I've never heard a change until now, where I was simply told that this is what it is because we can. And they can, I know they can do many, many things. I guess I would like an answer as to, well, what should they be doing? What is the message? Do we work at home? Because they're not providing any facility or technology for us to work in the building. So I don't want this to be preaching to the choir. I want this to be addressed, because to me, it's a very legitimate concern. It's a logical concern. And I don't want the answer to be, well, you're employed by the board, we can do what we want. I guess if that's their answer, that's their answer. But I would think that we would expect better than that, and I hope we would. And I want it. I want an answer, and I want it addressed. Not just a cyber school gripe session where we come back next year and talk about the same thing that's going on. So, what is the avenue to address this? Is anyone else experienced? I know Clint was 1-5.
I period 1-5 my first year across. It was ridiculous. And I bitched and complained, pardon my French, and I got up to 1-4.
Yeah. And it's almost like
it was the longest semester.
Also, God, I was made to feel unreasonable for requesting what I was requesting. There's always this idea that, and I think a lot of us might fight that within the culture of a homeschool, that I have my afternoons off. And it's like, no, I don't. And we all understand that. So I don't want to talk to the people who understand. But there needs to be a culture shift by decision makers that understand what the trade-offs are, what the job requirements are, and all of those things that just don't go poof because the schedule didn't work out.
It also affects, if I may add to Kenny's dilemma here. I do supervision around school, and we get 2 days, whatever it is. Believe it or not, if you have 1, 2, and 3 in the homeschool, you only have to take a half a day, and that's nice to have. Now they put you in his situation, that's a full day sub. Sorry, you lose that half a day now.
It's actually not a full day sub. It's 2 half day. Sorry, I had to get a half day sub and then find someone in my building to sub for.
That's not right. See, that's wrong.
It was ridiculous.
And that to me,
I just threw up my hand and said,
that's saying that I'm getting less than the other homeschool teachers.
Never even thought of that.
You know what I'm saying? So that there it is. And I've had this every year. Kenny, I mean, I guess I haven't spoken up. Next year I'm 2, 3, 4.
It was just
cyber school.
It was just the idea that somehow my expectations were unreasonable, and it was like, whoa, that's not the case. That's never been the message that's come from our own group, from decisions in the past. That is the trade-off. That is like when I went to Disney World for Christmas, that I brought my laptop and taught on my holiday in a hotel in Disney World. And I'm not complaining about doing that. I'm willing to do that because there is a trade-off for that I enjoy having, especially with young kids. And all of a sudden, like that just doesn't exist because the schedule didn't work. And I don't think we should be considered options as movable options in a homeschool schedule.
Okay. Do you want me to reply? Which way do you want me to reply? As the cyber
I
school
want
administration?
Sorry?
As the cyber school administrator or from the division plan?
You can reply. I would like this forwarded so that...
Has been many times, on Dave's behalf, on his behalf, but every time I see it happening,
Okay, so what's the board response?
the first response from the administration from the cyber school's point of view, it's got nothing to do with us.
No, not yours. I mean,
It's got nothing to do with myself and from an administration point of view. That has to do with your home school.
So our home school needs to be in concert with our board.
Yeah, or there has to be a discussion that has to happen somehow.
So how do I facilitate that?
It's a discussion with your principal.
See, we've had the same.
I've had this discussion, I had a 2-hour one. He said, you know what I was told? To bring it up at our cyber school.
Okay.
I brought it up.
Well, no, and I'm
Yeah, no, yeah.
I'm switching hats here, so I can say that. From a board's point of view, they would say if you were willing to teach any subject, or in an English level, they should be able to make your schedule work where you block off.
No, actually, a temporary contract was given, which bumped me up. That was the choice. It was, if this person got this contract, I was up. If a different person got it, I was fine.
But if you
A
were-
choice was made
I'm just
that I was a
telling
movable
you what I
piece.
hear.
Now, I know
What
what,
I hear is that if you were willing to teach, or anybody was willing to teach, a grade 9 English,
never presented to me.
but then that would be a discussion you have with your home school, not with me.
Okay, so when I have the discussion with my home school and they send me to you or to,
They wouldn't if you went in and said, I need to change it, so that.
I did.
Then you have to give up your AP, you have to give up your grade 12 English, you have to give up those things, and then change
So-
anything you want.
so we're not locked off then?
I have no control over what home schools do, none.
Well, that's the thing. We are part of a division.
But the division has no control over how a principal decides to use their staff. They're given a number of 14.5 staff members, and how they use them in their suggestions, and there's all that
I'm
stuff, they're allowed to do
suggesting-
whatever they want.
I'm suggesting that they should have some control over that, because if I were, Darren, if I taught at St. Joe's,
Yeah.
do you think I would be 1, 2, 5 at Cross and period 4 at Joe's? Ridiculous, of course I wouldn't.
I have no idea, that's outside my realm. I understand exactly what you're saying, and you know me long enough that we've been fighting for this for how many years?
I know we have,
We
but-
fought about this, the
so-
same thing here.
so-
And it's a new superintendent's in place. We fight with them again over the whole thing, and they have to work their way through it. Like they have to work their way through it in order to come up with a decision. Will they make a policy? No way are they gonna stick their nose into Holy Cross and say, your staffing has to be done this way because this is the way it should work. They make suggestions, but if the schedule doesn't work, the kids comes first and the building comes first. That's the reality. From my point of view, should they do it? No, definitely not. And you've heard me say that. There's no way they
So
should be
Dan-
charging you a full day of
So,
supervision.
fair enough, if that's the decision, and I have to work in the building,
Yeah.
do I get technology to do that?
No, you get your laptop.
Well, my laptop doesn't work in the classroom, there's no Wi-Fi. So, the reality of it, Eric, I know what they say, I
I've just
know.
lined
It's like
their
the
hat. They're
Yeah.
gonna say you've got a laptop. We've given you the mobility so you can work wherever you want. So go find some place where you get on.
So if I work at home, can I claim? Wally, you claim?
I did.
We need a voice where we actually present this again, I guess.
I'll bring it up again, but they're gonna come back for the same answers they gave us last time.
My understanding is in Wally's case, the reason that they signed off on it, they did sign the form, because Wally and I were not assigned to a particular school out of the cyber school. The fact that you guys are assigned to a particular school, they won't sign off.
So who is our superintendent in charge?
I have 2 superintendents that I deal with, 3 actually.
Who's in charge of cyber school staff?
Staffing, which is John McCall.
Okay, so am I leaping over
No.
people
No,
if I make a
you're allowed to
job?
you're allowed to talk to your superintendent anytime you wish.
I thought you had to do it first with your principal.
You have, you said.
Oh, I did.
This
Yeah,
is
got you.
I keep telling you, this has nothing to do with me.
Do I have to have permission? I don't know the
Not for
protocol
me.
for this. I'm on the phone.
Talk to Ben.
I already talked to Ben.
Well, he's the one who has got you scheduled that way, not
Okay.
myself. So you have to talk to your home school. And that's
I've
just,
done that.
That's just the hats, like I'm just switching
No, I
hats.
understand that.
There's nothing I can do about it. I can go talk to Ben and say, listen, that's not fair.
Well, Ben, see, here's where the lack of communication is. Ben is under the standing that I should be speaking with you.
Why? It's gotta be.
Darren, that's why I'm befuddled.
So you can speak to me about
That
probably
this
gonna give
issue-
you some equipment, yeah.
No. No. That's why I'm
Within your department.
not happy.
Within your department, there's nobody that can teach that.
Well, we had it, and then there was a glitch.
Because of accreditation.
Partly accreditation, and then they made a mistake in the big picture schedule, so they had to shuffle stuff around. But trust me, we've looked at it a million different ways. And a choice was made that I was a movable piece and the temporary contract.
And he's in the same boat.
Yeah. And so,
The same role.
my point was that I shouldn't even have been in the equation as a movable piece. And yet, so some people think we are, some people think we aren't, and what are we?
No, everyone is told exactly the same thing. You are part of Holy Cross for 3/4 time or whatever you are, and they use you based on where they think you would be best suited for the system. That's the only policy that's in place.
But it's a contradiction to all the other things of the 150-day cyber school and being open through holidays and strike action.
We gave you a 25% release to teach cyber school. That's the policy.
But they're using the flexibility piece
See, that's
against us.
Towards the.
That's the idea
25% raise.
behind it. I've got the same story. I asked to be logged behind and be partnered with somebody that can walk in the afternoon so we get a full teaching complement. And they came back to me and said, well, could you do 1 in 5? Yeah, so I said, well, you're a cyber school teacher, so you add that flexibility so we can log people around.
Yeah, no, that's,
And I'm like, well, my students are logging on in the afternoons and evenings, so why would I be, locked out in the afternoon and come here in the morning?
I'm on your side totally, you guys.
I know you are, yeah, I know that, and, but I want to talk to somebody.
Could this be something maybe that 1, 2, 3, Holy Cross, 4, 5 of us put in there, just chatting about it?
I did, for
Because-
2 hours.
No, I mean, but what I'm hearing is that, and I've been through this too, the flexibility is maybe seen from their side as beautiful administrative flexibility.
Oh, no, I laid it all out to
That'd
him.
be bold.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got all this flexibility now because, hey, you can work anywhere, you've given up a little bit of your flexibility. So I think maybe that needs to be said as a collective.
oh, it was said,
I remember the battle.
it was politely dismissed as not being the case.
Don't disagree, we're all agreeing, you're speaking to the
So-
choir here, so.
Yeah, I know, that's why I was hoping someone would answer my questions. That,
There's no one here who can do it. I can bring it up. I have a meeting with those guys tomorrow. I can bring it up again with them. It's not like they haven't heard it before. So I'll bring it up again and see what.
maybe I'll make an appointment, don't worry, I'll do it.
Well, that's important, but literally it's got nothing to do with the cyber school. Other
It
than-
has to do with the philosophy of what we are.
What the heck, they're bulldozing the school down and telling me to go.
No, I know that. I
And
know
there-
many
there-
things
there's
have
no
occurred
meeting
that are.
places, there's no equipment anymore, there's
I
no
know.
budget for
Yeah.
PA,
I understand.
like, all that stuff is the same thing, and that's all the part of the image.
Is it like
But-
we can be accessible?
You can tell, you can make the statement as often as you wish, but if they're not willing to look at it from another point of view, and they say you're a member of the board, then you have two choices, you either work at the cyber school or you don't. They're saying the same thing to me, like, if you don't like it,
See
well,
the
that's fine.
playground is gonna be across the street.
No, I know, I just disagree with that leadership style.
Don't disagree. Okay, it's on the videotape, so I can.
Wonderful.
Hybrids. He's got one daughter. Hybrids for next year. Hybrids can exist in WebCT for as long as we wish. I don't want to be making a billion new WebCT hybrid courses. We are going to try to move to the point where after Christmas, after you guys get to the point where your courses are of value and are useful for someone else, we will then move it into the Moodle realm, and then people will have hybrids and Moodles the moment we get to the point where we're happy with yours to do that. The hybrids are really well received by the face-to-face teachers. They really like them, and so I would like us to continue to do that. But tomorrow I have a meeting to find out what the cyber school is actually supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. Hybrids may not be on our plate. It may come down as part of the SharePoint team and become part of silos in SharePoint. And so if that happens, then we're not in charge of hybrids, and then someone else will be dealing with it. So we'll just deal with that as it comes down. Plagiarism in online education. This has been a thorn in our side since day one, and has been the #1 question anytime I do conferences or I speak anywhere. People are always concerned about whether or not the student who is getting the mark in your course is actually the student who's doing the work. Research out there states that it is no more rampant in online than it is in face-to-face. The only difference in the face-to-face is we're not as good at catching it because we don't have the technology to help us. But there's as much cheating going on at that level where a parent helps a grade 4 kid make the solar system and they bring it in as their science project. So the same thing happens. The thing that is coming up in the future, and that's part of the inquiry-based learning, and this will come from Cindy Kaufman as well, is that the moment we start talking about content and the memorization of content, we're teaching the students one skill, and that's the memorization skill. The content can be found anywhere in the world, and we shouldn't be teaching content. We should be teaching methods of finding the concept, internalizing it, engaging with it, and converting it into something that's useful for them. Can we make our assignments do that? I think so. I don't know how, but I think it's possible to eliminate some of our plagiarism within our courses based on that statement I just made. How do we do that? That's part of our challenge next year, and that's part of the challenge that Cindy will bring to you in the next year as she comes into your class and says, you know, this is the way that it would work better for us, is the inquiry method of learning, and then the internalization of material and personalization of material. What does that all mean? We're still going to have kids cheat. We're still going to deal with them all on a single one-on-one basis. Clint and I had this discussion yesterday. There is never going to be a policy made because there's all sorts of factors that come into it, whether or not it's a first event, whether it is a second event, whether it's in the beginning of the student's course, whether it's at the end of the course, how it affects their life in general, which shouldn't have anything to do with it, but there's not ever going to be a black and white case. There's always going to be a time where we'll sit down and we'll discuss it. There'll be times where we won't agree. And Clint and I didn't agree yesterday, and that the nature of the beast is that's what's going to happen as we try to come up with a flexible policy that works for the students, for the cyber school, and for the teachers. That doesn't mean you should be afraid to bring that forward. That doesn't mean you should be shocked when I say, you know, is there any way we can look at your course to try and make it so that they can't do this again? I'm not attacking you as a person. I'm not attacking you as the way you've written your course. We just have to look at methods of making plagiarism less of a big thing within your course. And most of you, or a lot of you, I've talked to already about plagiarism within your course, and because it has happened in your course. It happened in my course when I taught it. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. It's something that we need to talk about in order to be better at what we do. So don't be afraid to ask the questions, and we will deal with each one the best we possibly can. A few checkpoints so you know. The best thing to do is, if you have a gut instinct that someone in your class is not doing the course the way you think it should be done, in your view, challenge them on it. The first thing that you're going to get is they're going to get in your face and they're going to say, what do you challenge me for, blah, blah, and the parent's going to be upset and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. It's better to apologize and keep the integrity of your course intact than it is to just say, oh, well, I'm not totally sure, I don't have enough evidence to bring this forward. This isn't CSI or anything like that. We don't care if we have enough evidence. The fact that we ask the questions is a learning experience for the kid and for yourself. Yesterday I sent out an email with a whole pile of different ones, and all I did yesterday after I talked to Clint is I went down into Tato, which is my blog that I write in every single day, and I posted a whole pile of stuff on plagiarism that has been in the blog and for the since 2004. Every single university is dealing with exactly the same thing. Will Moodle answer some of this? Yes, from a technology point of view. But it's not as good a tool as your gut. Your gut and the ability to say something's not right in this scenario is the reason why you called it together. If you're uncomfortable doing that, bring them into my office. Bring us into the fold earlier rather than later. So Ryan and myself can be part of the equation to help fix it. Okay, so don't be afraid to do that. Questions, statements?
I had just, this might be the time to segue to it, but I had disclosure of abuse. I talked to Ryan about it, and then I ended up getting in contact with the home school and reaching out that way. So I guess is that way?
Abuse as in chat room, discussion board type abuse, or?
No, they were being abused at home.
At home? A couple of years back, we had a guidance counselor at that time who was the chapel area and the student lounge was very, very active. And in a block of about 3 or 4 months, we had 6 different suicide issues that we had to deal with. as we get better in Moodle and we start to bring in some of the social networking stuff and we invite the rest of the world into our classes, we're gonna have to deal with this stuff more and more. The value, and this is just me speaking, the value of bringing the world into our class, the benefits of that far outweigh anything else that we're gonna have to deal with. But it is a scary front when you start bringing in people that you have no control over. And we're receiving less and less control as the kids get farther and farther away from our division. So as the kids come from out of the division, we get some very strange questions. Like, I know I've never done any work in this class. Is it okay if you give me a final exam and if I get 100% or 50%, I can receive the credit? And they were told by a teacher outside of our division that yes, that's acceptable to ask that question. So you're gonna get all sorts of weird things as we go global and as we bring in global speakers. We have to be flexible, we have to deal with it, we have to relax and try to see that the benefit of this is going to far outweigh anything else we do. And I firmly believe that. As I travel around, you wouldn't believe the number of people that would jump at the chance to network with what we're doing here and to bring their class, their grade 9 class into your grade 9 class and share and be together. And I've got contacts all over the place now. There's all sorts of people in the world that would love to share in the learning experience that we do here. Are we going to formalize that? Yes. If we go international, we formalize that. Can we do it informally? Yes. Moodle is prime. It's built for that. It works so well. So you can bring guest speakers in, you can bring total classes in, you can do pen pals, you can do all that kind of stuff. We have the ability to do all of that kind of inquiry type learning. Is there an issue with the abuse? That's where some of the schools that I talked to had the supervision schedule that happened in their school. And a supervision was assigned for exactly that reason, is they needed to make sure they monitored the area that was not right within someone's class. If we go to year-round schools, 3 people are teaching in a class, one person's only job may to be gain contact with the student, find out what their home life is like, make contact with them, get your hooks into them so that you have a connection with them, and that will make it easier for you to teach them. Active education rather than passive education. That is the future, that's where we're going. It's scary, but it's going to be very cool when it actually happens. You'll get to know the kids so well that you'll be able to ask them to do so much more than we do. Okay, there's a little rant up on a soapbox. Teaching assignments
So
in
did I
home
do it
schools.
right?
If it went to Ryan, that's the first thing. He's your contact. He's gone and taken courses on all that kind of stuff. The abuse is a major concern. The suicide just makes me sweat right from day one, the moment the suicide stuff starts coming out. But you have to deal with it the same way you would in your class. It's part of our job. It's part of what we have to deal with. Don't do it alone. Do it as a team. 3 people sit down, we talk about it. We may not agree on the way we're going to deal with things, but at least we've talked about it and we've gone forward with it. That's what we're here for. We're here to support you. Help desk. One of the last thing on the list was the help desk. The help desk is something that sits on your desktop and will move into Moodle. It works only as well as how you guys use it. We're going to need it next year, big time. Because if you guys just send us an email, we're not going to get to it. Help desk questions, once they start in help desk, have to end in help desk. It's not Fight Club. That's what it's like, okay? So when you have a question or something that you don't like that's working in Moodle, send it to us. We'll move it to the appropriate person and they will get back to it. Check back in the help desk. That's where your answer is. Don't send an email and say, listen, I didn't get an answer to that question. It's in the help desk. The reason why we have the help desk is because it documents every question that's been asked. And some questions that you will ask will be answered by someone else's question. And so it's a system that works upon itself. It also gives you a ticket so you can refer back to it. I'm asking the question about this ticket. Inside the help desk, you ask that question and it spurs us to continue on with it. Sending us an email won't help. Yes?
So I send a ticket or a help desk question out and it goes to, I just want to know the flow chart.
The flow chart is based on what the
Who's
question
it go
was.
to first?
It depends on what the question was.
Okay, so I get the drop-down menu. I have a question on CyberTracker. You know, I'll use the example the other day. Kid's not showing up.
Right, goes to Al.
Goes immediately to Al.
Okay.
Okay. And it only goes to Al?
No, it goes to, I see them and I can see them whenever I want. It's okay to Sandra.
But does it go to more than just Al? Is my question. Like, is the flow chart Al, you, Ryan, Sandra?
Goes it goes to the person whose job it is to do the job, to fix it.
I don't see the CyberTracker ones. I see guidance. I think that's one of the things on the list, and that's one of the ones I see.
my experience with the help desk is it often isn't the most efficient way. And I don't think I'm alone. And I also find that when I see ticket closed, solved, in many cases it's not solved, and I have to go through the process again by sending an email, which now I have to ask about.
Should go back into the ticket system.
Right. And I just, maybe I'm the only lonely man on the lonely planet here, but I think it's not as efficient. I don't think we're that big that we can't send out an email.
We won't answer the emails.
Yeah, see, I have a problem.
Well, you can ask the question.
Yeah, I have a problem with not being able to, or feeling guilty almost for sending an email out about a question.
You should,
Because
because it's not the right way.
But the ticket to me isn't efficient. It hasn't been working for me. Am I wrong? Like, there's other people, like, once in a while it works, but.
The only way, the reason why why I'm being so hard-nosed on this is that in the past, and we may not be so big, but when we're moving to Moodle or something like that, there's gonna be a pile of these questions that come up. If it's in the help desk system, we know it's there. The question that you asked was responded by Al the day after, and he asked you for some more information. More information didn't come to him. That's why it wasn't resolved. You have to work within the help desk because it's a communication system outside of our email system. I send you guys email questions all the time. I don't get answers to them. It works exactly the same way in our office. Because believe me, when you have 40 people asking you questions like we will next year, if there isn't a ticket attached to it, we will not get back to you on it. Because it's not within the system. We don't know it needs to be fixed. And we have to segregate it that way, otherwise we're never going to be able to keep Jim on task. If you think I'm hard-nosed about this, wait until you see the way Jim sets up his flow path for the week and how many hours it takes him to do things, and this is what he needs to do, and this is the way it's prioritized. He does it continuously and sets it all up. That's what the help desk is designed to do. So you have to work within that system. If it doesn't work, and everybody decides it doesn't work, I don't have an issue with that. I understand the issue that you ran into this year, and I have to apologize because it wasn't resolved as well as it could have been. And so it was a mistake that happened.
It's been a few times, and I know there's other teachers as well that have sent things in, they get back, issue resolved, blank. Oh, really? Okay, click on the thing, and it's, whatever it was, was solved. It wasn't solved, so you gotta go through it again.
Yeah.
And then it's like, don't send me an email, send me, go to the help desk. Help desk didn't work, it said it's solved.
But the help desk, see the difference is this, is the help desk is an email system, the only deal. And so there's no difference between sending it in another help desk thing and saying, guess it wasn't resolved, they sent it in a system email.
It's cumbersome, it's not efficient.
In some ways though, like speaking.
Like, I know what you're saying, like, you don't want to send 14 questions, but
I don't want to work in two different systems. One is I have a question about a student, and I would just like to talk to you about the cyber school in general, and that's the email system. If it is a technical issue, it should go through the help desk.
When I get a question from a student to say, it's explained on lesson 14, page 3, paragraph 7, to me, it isn't a really efficient way of helping that student.
Right.
Even though it is, it's perfectly explained.
Right.
But I haven't solved their problem by sort of callously just saying, go there, look at it. I often will then enter an uncomfortable email exchange. And I think sometimes
You're
that would be a
talking to a
part.
technician. I hate to say it, you're talking to a technician. That's how they answer.
I know.
I've taught technicians. And Tim's taught technicians. That's how they think, that's how they answer. It's not a callous. That's
No.
the breed of cat you're dealing with.
But we're dealing with these people here. We're dealing with our office staff, and we're dealing with Ryan and Darren and Jeff.
See, we're not, but I don't want to hear about when you have an issue with the Moodle, blah, 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 blah.
That's one of the things I want to speak on. It's okay to ask questions, but if we have 29 staff members asking one person in the office, then that one person turns into, okay, well, I got this question now, I'll forward it on to the person who it should have went to in the first place.
Right.
And when you get 200 emails a day like that, at some point you're going, okay, I gotta steer it always in the right direction, and the ticket system does that for us.
The two of us are having an issue now at the end of the year because he's been the one that you guys have been emailing all year long. And so the information has been going to him. I get, and it's nice that you guys have been CCing me some of the questions. I answer it, he's faster than I am. I end up giving the same answer 20 minutes after he answers. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect there. And what the help system, the help desk is set up is, this, if it's guidance, we know it goes to Ryan. If it is a technical thing, we know it goes here, and that's basically what the ticket system is. And the other thing that it does is, you know, I sent an email about a week ago, I think, and then we have to go through, like, I get how many emails a day, I have to go through and try and find that email. All you have to do is state the ticket system. I have this ticket that has an issue. The ones that were closed for you, Sandra closed them because she thought it was a result. And if you use the ticket system and the response comes back in the system to what Al asked, then the answer would be in there, then Al would answer it in there, and then he would close it, because that was his job. And so inside the ticket system, it should be a migration, and then what it does is that question that you asked, when a person isn't inside, which was a definite problem that we had, not in the tracker system, that question, when we resolved it, and this is the way we resolved it, if she came up with exactly the same question, we would say refer to ticket number, blah, blah, blah.
I got 3 different emails back from 3 different people saying, oh, I thought this had been resolved because I didn't get another email from you. And I was like, really? I'm supposed to send an email? I thought it was the ticket. You know, so when I got Chantel, who sent an email back, so I sent off to you and Ryan, and I got this sort of exchange. Anybody know what's going on with this? Well, nobody knew.
But you're saying exactly the case that I'm talking about, is you went outside the ticket system, and then suddenly it hit everybody in the office, and everybody that was answering the question. It shouldn't have been. It should have gone to Al, and Al should have been the only one who dealt with it. So if you had dealt with just the ticket system, Chantel would have been involved, I would have been involved, Sandra would have been involved, no one would have been involved except for Al.
Fair enough.
Does that make sense?
No. Use the ticket.
Yeah.
125.
But maybe the best way to say this is, from my thoughts on this as somebody, and again, Tim would be behind this as well, the whole point of the ticket system is to manage the whole affair. And it's always going to be inefficient for someone along the way. It's better to be inefficient for one person sending it than it is for Al, who's going to get 25 or 30 emails on that one thing. Similar case, I'd be trying to cultivate this one kid to use the internal system. And I sent something like 7 to 15 emails, somewhere in that range to this kid who continues to use the on-site one. From his mom, from an aunt, from somebody else, and I'm supposed to track this kid and phone the kid at this hour or that hour. I'm in the same boat as the ticket system. Get it inside the internal WebCT, so I can manage it, so I can track the system, because I can't go to his aunt's, go to his mom's email system. And how many times they fall.
SharePoint will eliminate our email system for any of the communications that we have within cyber school. We will go to a discussion system the same way you do in your class. So the help desk is part of that. The help desk is the overall plan. The SharePoint is an overall plan. Email will be, so how was your weekend type discussions. Anything that has to do with the school will happen through SharePoint, if SharePoint is rolled out the way it's been designed. So help desk and all that stuff will be there. The email system will not be used for anything that has to do with business.
So the new staff discussion board, is that what you're talking about, will be, besides the technology, any other questions should go through there?
Right, because we're not going to have a pod system. We're not going to have that. It's not going to happen. I can see that that's been written in stone. We're not going to be able to get together. To get together in this, well, you look, we have 44 teachers. We have how many people here? We cannot get together as a staff. And from what I hear from our superintendents, they would like to meet with you guys a couple times if they can. So, well, fine, try and get us all together. I've got 3 superintendents. First of all, you can't get those 3 together, and then try to get you 45 together.
I'm available periods 3 and 4.
But you understand, it's all a growing thing, and the discussion, like I was a little hard on Clint there, but Clint knows that that's part of the growing thing that happens as we change. We are going to continue to grow, we're going to continue to change things, and we need to hear whether you like it or you don't. So he said he doesn't like it. If we hear a whole pile of people don't like that, we have to find out another system. But email is not it. We can't go back to emails, because 5 people are answering the same question. It doesn't work. That's why the help desk is employed by big companies and by anybody who's trying to roll out software, is they use a help desk ticket system. Well, you're not. You're not saying that.
Having said that, I can tell you, there's a part of this.
No, thanks.
Any other items?
like I said in the email to you guys a little while ago, there's jackets. Yeah, this isn't a ticket system. There's some jackets hanging.
Because I hope you have a nice day, Tybee.
Yeah, there's some jackets hanging up in the back if you are interested. I know most of you already have jackets, so it doesn't apply to you, but there's men's and women's. Some people were asking, that's why I'm bringing it up. It's $90, taxes, everything in. So if you're interested, there they are. If you're not, no worries. It's just a few more. Because I know there's some new staff members and some people who were asking about it. So.
12 years later, we're still asking the same questions, guys. Isn't it great? Next year is going to be fun, frustrating. We'll smile a lot. We'll still be the best darn staff in the world, and we'll still have the best cyber school in the world. So I'm excited. The rest of the world wants to see it, believe me.
So when this place goes down, I can go for here.
Families. Yeah, I've had chats with them, they're like, oh, it's the best in the world.
So what's your backyard like?
You have wireless in your backyard.
I'm going to just get more. We're going to move it wherever they want us to be. This week we're at St. Joe's.
Don't offer that, you might get that.
Hey, it works for me.
Winnebago.
As we get stuff, we will keep you posted. In the summer, we'll have lots of in-services. I'm around all summer long, so I will be around to in-services. If you want to meet, just drop me an email, talk to me. Try and make it happen.
I logged in, and then I sent you an email,
You use the ticket
so. Did you
system?
get it? No, this is outside. Did you get my email? Based.
I'm done, guys.
Thank you.
Pay your bills.
Okay, so I've already logged into Moodle.
Yeah, that's all good.
Awesome.
Have a great summer, guys.
All right, everybody, enjoy. Thanks for lunch, Darren.
I don't.
Let's go fast.
It was right at the end of the school year, so I just finished. Now I got back. I can do this fall.
Darren, are those new adventures?
And I get submitted to them.
We called each other.
Opie, hey, Superintendent Opie. I'm not I'm at the first.
Because like this one.
Yeah, the workplace.
He is coming on next year.
This year's special.
So
Everything's like, oh, I know,
I know this is all.
you know, when you log in for,
Yes.
Or is it too big, like,
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Should we just set it to get it done? So I can
I think you just have to check off what you want, and then you can send it into John Morrison. Great.
What's going on with math next year right now?
You have? Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
you're
would say, they're important to point out.
Yeah, so you want to say just to go?
I heard they were going up, that's a lot.
Oh, sure.
It was 5 year agreement.
Sorry.
Hey, is it a lot more?
Well,
yeah, it's like $120 more.
Yeah, if it's the last.
But they had said it was 5 for sure. They said that.
Yeah.
I would talk to someone else and they said they had their original thing where it said 5 years and they faxed it to John. Yeah. There was an email saying there's something about it.
That's right.
Their contract.
So.
I mean, it's still.
No, just, we're gonna migrate more to Google. No, I wouldn't sweat a lot about that kind of stuff. I would worry more about.
Did you have any great nights this year? Nicholas, he's in Nordics. So he's in Nordics, he's the one who did that.
And yeah, before we transfer.
Oh, okay. I heard your name.
Yeah.
Okay, good, that's a lot of interesting stuff too. Yeah.
See, like, my V3, like, transfer down, he's doing your temperature.
Have a wonderful summer. Yeah, you too. Have fun. If you're going Disney. Pretty exciting, hey? Yeah. See you later. See you later, Jen.
plug in, our technician has to say like enable flash.
Hi, nice to meet you. Have a great summer.
Yeah, you too.
So that's the kind of stuff that we're gonna be.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So,
I can barely
But
get
your
into my
classes are in
basement
there.
where my, actually, my crap's all gone
Yeah.
now, my treadmill is all like
No,
sitting there.
Does he
waiting
want
for
to
me.
register templates
Wait.
for,
Yeah, I went for a walk that day, I went by your house,
is that going to be?
but I just walked
registering
by
all
the
the-
things to do. You probably.
What else
No,
is
it
there?
will have to fall into our
What's
template.
that?
Just that they are-
Unless this template is exactly what ours is going to
Do
be.
your best.
What is stuff for?
I managed to take times where you probably got your children.
It's good because you're learning
And
and it will migrate without an issue.
I refused to interrupt
You
you,
can
because
continue
that last
to
time
work
it
with
was
it.
a boat.
One modal system is as good as the other, it's just
Because I had
the
phoned
theme
you
is
guys.
not gonna be the same.
But then by the time I got around, there was a boat, so I was like, oh no, I'm stopping now.
Just think I was so excited to see you. You're her fan, right?
Oh, I know.
All the
I
sides
just
of
hear
the
actually.
house, same sort of
See
thing.
them for a while.
So keep attention in the classroom, it's in this and over there, so there's that kids are taking.
We do, we
When we
hang out.
first started this high school, we had.
Yeah, you'll ask her. I said,
And it just causes too many
yeah,
issues.
she want me to.
Well, no, it's
Oh.
the template is a script.
Okay. Maybe you should share.
Just the text, right?
Inside webs and tiers, inside.
In Moodle, you download one of the lessons and it works. So the tabs are there.
Well, that's the same, that is not the same thing, no, the theme's different. The theme has got something to do with, the overall banner across the top, and I have one or two bars on each side. And so if you're working inside Reg's, thing, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so this is white and
So
green.
you decide why you're not redeveloping this because it doesn't support down the screen.
I would be very surprised. Moodle, above all other LMSs, will be adaptable to what we
That's
do.
almost everything.
It does, yeah, because somebody somewhere else in the world had the same problem as you, and fixed it. So if you're going into Blackboard, it'd be a good story, but Moodle should gives the best chance to make it as good as it can be.
Okay,
check, double check.
It's not made out of tea, so.
You can have a hug.
Oh, yeah.